What's going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and today I'm really excited to bring you a review of our new company car, Range Rover Velar. So, as you guys might have seen on the channel, I have the CLA 45 AMG as my daily driver at the moment, and one of the biggest issues that I have with traveling with equipment, the cameras, tripods, lights, and all that kind of stuff, as well as with the renovations and the furniture between the properties, is that there just isn't enough cargo. So for a little bit, I've been thinking it's time to get a company car, and I'd like to give a huge thanks to the sponsor of this company car, VINN Auto. They're a Victoria-based company actually, and they help make your car search very easy. Just go on their website, type in the car that you're looking for, and it will bring up all of the options that are available at nearby dealerships, and that is what we did right here. So when it came to trying to decide which company car to get, I wanted something that had a bit of cargo, maybe a little bit stylish as well, and a bit of tech, and we were kind of between like maybe getting a Tesla Model Y, but the thing is, having a secondary car that is electric only is a little bit tough because the condos and the office doesn't have a charger at the moment. And so I figured I've always wanted a Range Rover and a blacked out one. So we went on VINN Auto and typed it all in, and this came up. So we actually came over to Vancouver and picked it up. It was ready to go, and the whole process was super easy. But from like a tech standpoint and the driving standpoint, I can say that right off the bat, it has been absolutely incredible to drive. The steering's amazing. It handles really nicely. It has some speed as well, being the Dynamic S 340 model with the V6 engine. I would say it's like the perfect addition to the lineup, because whenever I'm just like doing day-to-day stuff, I would take the CLA, and whenever we're coming to like Vancouver to film with a whole set of gear and stuff, then it makes sense to do it with the Range Rover Velar, because in this case, we're here to cover an event this week. We're also here to film the S580, and there's just a lot of equipment that has to be brought along, as well as the iMac to cover the Apple event tomorrow, and without enough cargo, we really can't do that. So yeah, in this video, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the tech features inside, being a car that is pretty much all digital with very few buttons and like a very seamless design, the interior features, and just all the things that I love about it. And also, of course, the driving experience and my overall impressions as to whether or not the Range Rover Velar is one that really flies on the radar and one that you should consider if you're trying to think of what your next SUV is, especially when comparing it with like the Sport, the full-size one, or even other models out there. So I'd say like one of the main reasons why we went with the Velar is that it is just like not too large. It is like, as you can see, a car that looks, I mean, decent in size. It has a ton of storage. I know the Range Rover Sport is a bit larger overall, but I feel like in terms of cargo and everything, this was a perfect size so far. And as you can probably tell, I'm pretty happy with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in the interior before we take it for a drive. If you guys would like to see more car videos like this, just make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, drop a like in this video, and leave a comment down below. So when it comes to the interior experience of the Range Rover lineup, what I've really liked about it is that they've kept it really simple, but at the same time, it still has like a very premium feel to it. And whether it's like the Range Rover Sport or the Velar, or obviously the full-size Range Rover, I just really like how they've integrated technology throughout. And the Range Rover Velar is one that really does embody that. And as you can see here, there really aren't many buttons at all. And if anything, even if there are any dials, it does integrate like a digital aspect to it, which I feel like is really the move going into the future. So on top here, you have like the main screen with your navigation, your different multimedia stuff, and down here you have a display that is more focused towards like the vehicle, the riding style, the seat, and also the climate options. And you also have your temperature dials for the seat and the cabin as well, which has a digital screen in the middle. The main part of what like Land Rover has really focused on in the last few years is their actual system. And previously there were some complaints of how it was like laggy, or maybe not as fast as people would have expected, but they've completely redesigned it recently, and it is now the new PIVI system, and I can tell you that it is just super easy to navigate. The tiles all look really nice. You can actually have different styles of either using like the tile system here, or you can also have it in like a grid. Apple CarPlay also works very nicely and actually takes up the whole screen, and you also have your settings of the brightness and the screen tilt and everything, as well as the slope assist, driving style, and all that. The navigation system is also relatively easy to use. I think like in terms of the steering wheel, I believe this is also an update that is new for this year. Instead of having like the circular dials and stuff, they've changed it to one that just looks a little bit more modernized, but I will say I do sort of like the design of the previous one a little bit more. All of your buttons are also touch capacitive here in the cabin, and I think they're easy to navigate, but if you're not like looking down directly at the screen, it does make it a little bit difficult sometimes to see which one you're actually pressing. But otherwise, like as the driver's view, I really like the digital dash here. It has everything nicely presented and the option to have your navigation as well. And the HUD is also a great addition and one feature that I feel like I'm very used to nowadays. In terms of like the actual cabin space, I would say it's around the middle. It definitely isn't like the most spacious out there, but for someone my size, I feel like it's like a good combination of like compact while giving you tons of cargo. But if you're looking for more room, then the Range Rover Sport is obviously one that can make a lot of sense, or the Discovery, and I think this is definitely a little bit on the cozy side. In terms of like headspace though, there's tons of room there. You also have a very nice large sunroof. You also have the controls of the actual shade and the sunroof retraction, very easy to access right here. I really like the cockpit, how it was just so simple. I love the material choice and like the texture that they have on here. And I do also like the fact that they've gone away from using the digital dial and instead have gone to a physical gear shift lever, which I feel like is something that a lot of people wanted to see. As for like the seat comfort, this right here is like a combination of the perforated leather and Alcantara, both in the black finish. And I honestly am a huge fan of it, and I usually don't like Alcantara that much, but after having it on my CLA 45 as my daily driver and also like having it on this, I actually like the combination of having the leather and the features of having cooled seats and heated seats as an option, but also the grip that the Alcantara is able to provide. So yeah, from like a cockpit experience, I think this is like a really enjoyable one, and from driving it around and everything, as you're gonna see on the road, I've loved it so far. So before we go ahead and hit the road and talk about the driving experience of the Range Rover Velar, I want to give a huge thanks to the sponsor of this video, Tezos, which is a decentralized, energy efficient blockchain. So in the world of like cryptocurrency, NFTs, and all that kind of stuff, there's definitely a lot to learn, and it's very important to educate yourselves on like the basics of how these things work and decide where your stance is from like an investment standpoint, the involvement that you want to have in it, and also as businesses, figure out how you can kind of stay in touch and stay educated of what is to come in the future. So essentially what Tezos is a platform for like business people, creatives, and people who are just interested in crypto to learn more about the decentralized applications of cryptocurrency. And they have a build, play, and connect homepage that makes the world of NFTs easier to understand if you're looking to educate yourself on it. It is all very educational, easy to understand, and fun. On the topic of cars, Tezos is partnered with Red Bull and McLaren's Formula One teams and is one of the most reputable projects in the cryptocurrency space right now, and they're definitely fully taking advantage of this NFT moment that we're seeing in 2022. Tezos is also an energy efficient and self-upgradable proof of stake blockchain with an average energy footprint of 17 global citizens. So if you guys want to go ahead and check out Tezos for yourself, I'm going to drop a link down below, and a huge thanks to them once again for sponsoring this video. So now that I've given you like a bit of a brief of the car itself, the interior features, and some of the technology, let's go ahead and hit the road and talk about what it's like to drive the Range Rover Velar. I've driven some SUVs in the past here and there when I first started learning how to drive and before I had my own car, but this is definitely one that I've really been looking forward to, and the spec that we had available relatively close to where I live is just like the perfect one, both in terms of the color, the engine, and some of the features. So I'm going to kind of go over all of that and also my recommended configurations. First thing to go over is the driving modes, and you have the Eco, the Dynamic, the Comfort, as well as some of the off-road and winter modes. And for the most part, if you're just like going around the city or like daily commute, I would say the Comfort mode is probably the best one to go with. It just gives you like a very smooth ride. I can tell you, being my first time actually driving a Range Rover and always being kind of curious of them, I really like the interior, but was definitely like interested to see how exactly they drive, because I have heard about the reliability issues in the past, and I've always kind of wondered why people kept going back to Range Rovers. And I can tell you, from the second that we actually picked this car up on the lot, it is just such like a nice direct driving experience where the steering was very smooth, but it was relatively soft, but at the same time, it just feels like it glides along, and for an SUV, that is kind of what you want. If you take a look at some of the options that you have in the driving modes, though, it does have a lot that ties back to Land Rover's heritage of being an off-road vehicle. It gives you a camera to give you a view of the slope. It also has like slope calculation and slope assist options. That's honestly something that I'm not going to be using that much, but for the most part, the dynamic mode and the comfort mode is the one I've been sticking with. The model that I have right here is the R-Dynamic S, which is kind of like the middle one in the lineup. The entry-level model comes with a V4 engine, which I feel like for a car of this size just isn't enough. So I would say at least step up to the V6 model. This right here has over 300 horsepower. It does 0 to 60 in about 6.3 seconds. And for an SUV of this size, that is very respectable, and you definitely do feel like it has the power to go with it, especially once you get into the dynamic mode. As I mentioned in the interior tour, everything is on a touchscreen, so I have all the buttons that I can quickly change the mode of right here. So if I'm just cruising around, I'll be in comfort. I'll jump into dynamic mode sometimes, but there is also the option to adjust the ride height at any time as well, from a higher setting if you're like in a different type of terrain, where it gives you like a bit of a softer ride, or into the actual sport mode through the shifter here. Then dropping it down to a lower ride height will make a lot of sense and keep you just a little bit more planted. You can definitely notice the actual change in the height if you're looking at it from the outside of the car. And there is also a mode where if you're parked, then it will drop the height down to make it easier to get things in and out of your trunk. So yeah, when it comes to like actually driving it, I absolutely love it. You can still kind of hear the power within it, but it does have a very quiet ride, and it does hide the bumps and the road noise quite well. And those are all characteristics that, as like a company car that we're taking on road trips and hauling quite a few things, really do check the boxes. And I'm overall very happy with the decisions that we went with a Range Rover Velar this time, because I feel like it has a good combination of the characteristics of an SUV that gives you a lot of cargo, but at the same time isn't too large compared to like a sport or a full-size Range, while giving you a lot of like JLR's new technological additions in the past few years in their transition to going fully digital. The Land Rover Discovery is definitely a model that I looked into as well, but I don't feel like it looks that good. It was kind of a love or hate it, and I'm definitely not someone who is like the demographic of who would want a Land Rover Defender. So the Velar, I feel like, is like very sleek, has a great amount of power, and I would just say like it really does suit our needs quite nicely. When it comes to changing everything on a touchscreen, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. And like while you're driving around, it's good to have like tactile buttons and lights and all that. But after having the car for about a week or so, I really do like the way that the button system has all worked out. It has been very quick and responsive. And as we went through the Pivi system, I have mentioned that I feel like they've done a great job in improving that overall interface. And the dash in front of me has all the great information as well, whether it is the navigation system, the speed, and also RPMs. The HUD is also an option that's included in this car, and I feel like that is a must-have from my experience. And when it comes to like the actual parking cameras and everything, those also work very, very well to illustrate through the 360 camera where exactly the car is if you're trying to park it. So the speakers in this car is the Meridian option, and it has, I believe, 17 speakers, and it's about 750 watts. The upgraded option is about $1,000 difference, and I think if you're already spending the amount of money on this car, $1,000 in options is not very significant, and it's one that should be added. But the general like speaker system, being a non-upgraded model in the one that I have right here with the Meridian technology still, is already really powerful. It sounds really good. But I think I would recommend you turning down the actual bass and like the subwoofer, because it is a little bit overwhelming in the beginning and kind of drowns out the entire sound of everything else. I also like the fact that the main screen right here that has all the driving information lets you tilt and set it to the perfect angle, and it is assigned to a certain driver profile. Just to recap like the whole driving experience, it's like everything that I kind of expected and wished for with the Range Rover, and I think the Velar was a good model. I mean, I've always wanted the Sport. It's been the model that I've been a huge fan of. I think it looks great, but honestly the design is getting a little bit dated, and I do think it is due for a redesign relatively soon. I believe it's been since about 2014 that that model has been on the market. So something that was a bit more streamlined while still giving you that power with the R-Dynamic S option was essentially what I was looking for when it came to picking a company car that made the most sense. So now just to like recap my experience with the Range Rover Velar, I can tell you that I'm really happy with this decision. It's one that has the cargo that we need, as well as the nice like SUV and like road trip factor compared to taking a sports car everywhere, but at the same time, it is not overwhelmingly large. It's no secret that I'm not the tallest person out there, so I feel like this is like a good size for me to drive as an SUV. But if you are looking for a ton of interior space, the Range Rover Sport is noticeably more spacious from both the driver and passenger perspective. The back definitely doesn't have the most space in this option, but when it comes to like having the trunk and having like all of the luggages and camera equipment and stuff, I feel like this is going to be a very popular family car option for a lot of people out there, because it has a good blend of luxury while also giving you enough options and engine models to start at a price point that is much more affordable than the Range Rover Sport. As I said, the one that I would recommend is the R-Dynamic S model that we have right here. There is also the HSE, and I believe there is also like the SVR or something. But I think this one right here with the V6 engine, over 300 horsepower and a 0 to 60 of 6.3 seconds, it gives you a lot of versatility when it comes to how you want to drive it, whether it's in the comfort mode, just on day-to-day commute, the eco mode even, but also putting it into the dynamic mode if you want to get a little bit more speed and power out of it. And if you do road trips, then this option also has the ability to raise and lower the car height depending on what you want. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you go ahead and drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And this has been like kind of my review or introduction of the Range Rover Velar 2021, which I feel like is a car that just has a ton of tech packed in and is often a little bit underrated. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this car review, and I'll see you all in the next one.